Alright, Shalom Hebrews. This Israel been Israel. I got a video. This video I'm finna do still about Ashkenazi and the Decapolis and how all the people been made a fool out of besides the people who constructed the history and constructed the lie. And I show you Hebrews in the videos over and over and over how the Sephardic groups whose name is Sephardim, how they were scribes and how they were settled in Samaria while we was on Egyptian religion. Okay, I'm finna do this one because it's a cold thing. How, a whole lot of us been sent out since the slavery days about the New Testament and the demigod Jesus. You see what I'm saying? And the reason I say a demigod is because, anytime you have a miraculous God son, that's what they call a demigod. But this what I want to show Hebrews, that in the Decapolis cities, that was settled by Scythians, after the Babylonian wars, when the Babylonians under the name Chaldeans chased us Hebrews into Africa. The 99%, we got chased into Africa during the Babylonian wars. I'm going to try to get their history in, but this is what I want to show. It is how Jesus members in the Decapolis cities, where Jesus spent 99% of his time, 90% of his time, because 10% was spent in, Jerusalem, at that temple that Herod built. But the majority of the time that when Jesus did his miracles and did everything, that it was supposed to be in the Decapolis cities among the Scythians. The Scythians ain't nothing but Ashkenazi. And Ashkenazi had over 380 synagogues in the Promised Land during the time of Jesus and a little bit before, because they was trying to learn our heritage, and they had all them synagogues. But boy, they had some parties at them synagogues. And if you was to do a little research on the Decapolis cities in the synagogues and the Jews that held the Decapolis cities, you would see that they was buck wild. I'm talking about they was buck wild. Alright, this is what I want to show, man, about Ashkenazi. You know what I'm saying? That the Scythians were weed smokers, and they whole culture was centered around weed smoking. And these are gonna be the peoples that settled in the Decapolis that Jesus spent his whole time among. That the Scythians, Scythian is the code name for Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi are the Scythians. They try to say, oh, maybe they is, maybe they ain't. But they are. They'll tell you in their sources, in Jewish sources, that the kingdom of Ashkenazi was first associated with Scythians. You see what I'm saying? And they are the Scythians. And they try to say, well, they disappeared off the map of history and the world don't know what happened to them. Yeah, that's because they settled in the Promised Land in Scythopolis and in the Decapolis city. And this is what's so cold about Scythopolis. It was the head of the Decapolis cities. It was the head of the Decapolis cities. Scythopolis was. Scythopolis was the head Decapolis city. Scythopolis was the head Decapolis city. You know what I'm saying? And the other 10 cities was on the east side of the Jordan, right? And Scythopolis is gonna be on the side where Samaria at, where Bethel was and where Jerusalem was. You know what I'm saying? A few miles from each. And that's where we're going to be held books at. See what I'm saying? And then the rest of the Decapolis cities, you know what I'm saying, it is where the other unlearned Scythians was. You know what I'm saying? The wild ones. Now the Greeks will pull up later on and live there. They'll try to cover the history up with Greeks. And well, the Greeks came there and built them up. Oh, the Romans came there and built them up. They be trying to disguise history and try to keep them people's heritage hid because they know that if we stumble up on the truth, that we're going to wake up. See what I'm saying? See, the truth's supposed to wake you up. And this is truth right here. I'm finna show you, Hebrews, that the Scythians that was in the Decapolis cities smoke weed. That's all they ever did was smoke weed. And that those stories about Jesus come from a third party, and that they wasn't wrote by his disciples or constructed during his time, and that they wrote them later on. And I'm gonna also show that a lot of people think that Christianity started with the Council of Nicaea. I can show that Christianity, the belief in Jesus as a God's son, started in Scythopolis among the Scythians a few years before the Council of Nicaea. You see what I'm saying? See, it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on, Hebrews. But the Scythians smoke weed. And they smoked it the best weed because it was part of their culture and stuff. You see what I'm saying? You see them images right there? Man, they got bungs, you know what I'm saying? They had the bungs and all kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying? This a golden bong of them smoking weed. And then you see that little clan hat. That's where that hat come from. That little pointed scalp. That come from the Scythians and from Ashkenazi. They used that to chase us into Africa in the book of Jeremiah when they was on them horses with them body parts and them skeletons and them skull heads and everything on it, because that's part of their culture too. You see what I'm saying? That when they get their enemy, it's to tie their body parts on to their horses and ride around with it. You see, they been already came up out the Caucasus Mountain where they from with the bear skins and all this stuff on. And then, just imagine these people falling up on you when the Creator wanted us up off the promised land because we said that we was going to worship the Egyptian religion. The Creator sent for the worst of the worst. And if you read the book of Habakkuk, it tell you about Ashkenazi coming. This is right when they was destroying Assyria. It's when the prophet Habakkuk wrote, about Ashkenazi coming to destroy us. And that's what that book is about. It was wrote in 625 BC. They had finished destroying Assyria in 612 BC. And then the Chaldean Babylonians made a beeline to our territory. And these are the Scythian arrowheads that's found, throughout the promised land. And that they shot so many at us and shot so many at us that it's still some here today. And, arrowheads found at Jerusalem. Trilobite arrowheads were found at Tel Megadim, Atalat, Medigo, Kassin, Quashana, Samaria, Tel Michael, Gizar, Tel Nahashabai, Jerusalem in the city of David, Katif, Hanam, and on the southwestern hill of Ashkelon, Ekron, Ashdod, Tel Batash, El Halhasi, Latish, Beth Shemesh, Galim, Gahadi, Tel Azar. Man, they go on and on and on and on and stuff. Even at Mount Sinai, you know what I'm saying? They found, arrowheads. You know what I'm saying? Well, the Creator sent them folks, man, to get us up off the promised land. Them folks right there. With them skeleton with them body parts, them the enemies that they done killed, and they riding around with them on them. And then when you seen them folks, man, you know what I'm saying, you already knew that it was over with. Well, that's what the Creator sent, for them folks to get us up off the land. But the thing is, man, them people was weed smokers. You see what I'm saying? They whole culture it is based upon weed smoking. The Scythians, you know what I'm saying? They smoked the weed and stuff, and that's what they did. You know what I'm saying? And they would get high, and Jesus would spend his whole time. He would spend his whole time dealing with them. This is the bone, a solid gold bone, what the Scythians use. They would have this in the Decapolis cities too, because this was a part of their culture. So Jesus was sent to a nation of weed smokers. You see what I'm saying? Because that's part of their culture. They not gonna tell you this in history. And then they gonna try to keep it hid. You know what I'm saying? They even had a cannabis corn. You know what I'm saying? Man, a cannabis corn right there, a weed corn back in the days, and that's what the Scythians circulated with their money and stuff. You see what I'm saying? And then they got these in museums. You know what I'm saying? And man, the Scythians smoked the weed. Man, they smoked the weed. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they did. And that's a bong right there. And that's, you know what I'm saying? And they loved to mess out some gold. Well, those Scythians was settled in the Decapolis cities. You see what I'm saying? And in the Decapolis cities, and Jesus would have them as members and stuff. And then that's like I said, that the New Testament story is gonna be told by a third party. You see what I'm saying? And that the people that that should have wrote his books, about Jesus should have been his disciples, but did none of his disciples write a book? You see what I'm saying? And that all his books and his stories about him come from third party sources and stuff, and that them individuals smoked weed in the Decapolis. You have to take this into account. That smoking weed and getting high was part of the Scythians' culture. So therefore, some of them stories about Jesus doing it miraculous stuff, it can be accounted for now. You see what I'm saying? It can be accounted for now. Was they telling the stories when they were smoking weed? You see what I'm saying? Was those stories about Jesus that was told from a second source and third parties, were they was those people high when they told them stories? Because maybe they done gathered up all the miraculous stories that's influenced by the people smoke weed, and they collected them, and then they passed them off as the miracles and stuff. You see what I'm saying? Because ain't nobody did no miracles, and ain't nobody coming back from the dead, because we know the Creator didn't set the things in bound like that. You know what I'm saying? Alright, now check this out. Dude will tell you, Luke would tell you that he ain't, that he wasn't there. For as much as many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of these things, which are mostly surely believed among us, even as they delivered them unto us, which from the beginning were witnesses and ministers of the word. You see what I'm saying? So he telling you that he getting his story from somebody else that done told him about, Jesus. You see what I'm saying? And I can show you that it was a lot of Jesuses in the New Testament era. It was a lot of Jesuses in the New Testament era, and you can look up each and every last one of these individuals, and they all lived about the same time. You see what I'm saying? And they all professed to do the same thing. You see what I'm saying? But the Christ Jesus, all right, he dealt with Scythians in the Decapolis city. and those Scythians would come to our land from the those Scythians would come to our land from the Caucasus Mountain. See what I'm saying? Them Scythians, they would destroy Assyria. They would destroy Assyria. They would destroy Assyria, and then they would settle, man, in our land. You see what I'm saying? They were settled in the promised land. And that's how they did it, just like how this map showing. And then I'm starting to come across the history and able to construct the history where the Scythians, Ashkenazi, that's who the Chaldeans, that's who Assyria called them, and that Ashkenazi, when they came out the mountain and how they was kicking it in Assyria, and that the Assyrians let them take Chaldea over. You see what I'm saying? Let them take Chaldea over, and then they would interact and mix with the Scythians, and then the Scythians would come back and destroy Assyria. You see what I'm saying? And then from there, from destroying Assyria, they would come into our land. You see what I'm saying? The promised land. You know, right there. But man, it's called the Battle of the Battle of Nineveh, when the Scythians, with the Scythians, the Medes, and the Chaldeans. That's when old King Midas went and gathered all them nations. They leave out in history exactly what King Midas did. You know, King Midas, his daddy was Barabuta, and they used to hang around in Syria. They had come up out the Caucasus Mountain all nasty and dirty, and the Assyrians let them folks hang out. And then they got so deep, and then Assyria tried to get them up out of Assyria and try to push them folks back, but it was too late. And then they had destroyed Assyria. Well, the Creator sent for them folks to come get us, because we had said that we wanted to do the Egyptian religion. So he sent the worst of the worst to come get us up off the land, and that be them folks right there, riding around with them bear skins on, and with them skulls and them bones tied to their horses, and then they can shoot bow and arrows, and then they was high on weed. You see what I'm saying? They was high. Weed is part of their culture. They invented the bone. You see what I'm saying? They invented the bone. And then they was settled in the Decapolis cities. And then that's where Jesus did his membership and his miracles and everything on them people only. And Jesus was in them synagogues. You know, I can show that Jesus was in them synagogues, and some of these synagogues, and then how them folks didn't like it. You see what I'm saying? And they didn't want Jesus hanging out, you know what I'm saying, doing no cures at their synagogues and stuff. And how Jesus was sent from those schools. Jesus was sent from them schools in that Melchizedek school in Egypt. It's a Melchizedek school that was in Egypt that Jesus was probably up there high in membership, could have been a high priest. And then how he came, and how the Jews in Egypt and Alexandria, which was the brains of the of what was going on, because the Ptolemies had took our books to Egypt and translated them with them 70 elders. You know, the exiles, I got videos showing that the exiles were destroyed when they come from Babylon, and then that allowed the Greeks, like the Ptolemies and the Lichenists, to claim Israelite heritage. You see what I'm saying? That would allow them to claim an Israelite heritage. You see what I'm saying? And those are Philo's relatives right there. This is Philo's great-great-grandfather right there. He was one of Alexander's bodyguard. Where the exiles from Babylon seeing so bad, and they was protected by the Persians. And they was just a little small fruit numbers, and they only lived in Jerusalem. They didn't live in the other parts of our territory. I got this in other videos too, how the exiles only lived in Jerusalem. They only lived in Jerusalem. and the other tribes of Israel was among them. I'm showing all this in all the videos. Sometimes you have to sit back and listen to the videos over and over, even when you go to sleep. I do. You know what I'm saying? I listen to the videos that I, you know what I'm saying, put together over and over and stuff, because it's just solid information, and you can't just never get enough of hearing the truth about the New Testament and the Tanakh history, that, you can wake up on and stuff. That's what, the Israelite Brotherhood is here to do. All right. The Alexander them generals them would slice up, the known world in. And the Ptolemies would settle in Egypt, and they would control the promised land just about the whole time till the Romans got in there. But, during that time when Jesus went to Egypt, fleeing supposedly from Herod, and we know, like I got in the other videos, how Herod died in 4 BC, 4 years before Jesus was born, that Herod the Great was dead, and how that story just ain't falling together. The only part that is true and that you can see is that Jesus kicking it with the Scythians in the Decapolis, doing his so-called miracles and healing practices on them. That's like I showed, how Jesus had doctor skills and everything. You know what I'm saying? And how some of those synagogues, them folks didn't want to fool with him. You know what I'm saying? And I got videos showing how Jesus kicked it in the synagogues, and that's what he did, his messages and his dealings with them the whole time. And then I also want to show you this, Hebrews, that in Scythopolis, you know what I'm saying? That's like some of you Hebrews think that the Council of Nicaea is where Christianity got its start. And no, the belief in Jesus as being a son of a God is going to start with Ashkenazi and with the Scythians. The Scythians that had settled in the promised land wasn't nothing but Ashkenazi. And how that they was the first to start that belief in Jesus. You see what I'm saying? And then if you look, many said Scythopolis, today Bethshan, had a Christian community head by a bishop even before the Edict of Milan, or even the Council of Nicaea in 313 legalized profession of Christianity in the Roman Empire. When the Roman province of Palestinian Secunda was set up in the 4th century with the Scythopolis as its capital, the bishopric became the metropolis overseers, and that's like the first sees of the Roman sees. All that was in Scythopolis first. All the bishops and the people who made Christianity was in the Decapolis and Scythopolis cities first. All of them, they was in Scythopolis first. They even got their history there to tell you, but you got to know what you're looking for. Well, all those folks smoke weed because the Scythians smoked it weed. That was part of their culture. So when are you going to be able to tell when the Scythian was high or when he wasn't high, when they was constructing the stories of Jesus? You see, look here. See, Council of Nicaea was called First Council of Nicaea, 325 A.D., the first ecumenical council of the Christian church. You see, but we know that's a lie, because that they was Christians already in Scythopolis. That's gonna be the head city of the Decapolis cities. You see what I'm saying? And they was you know what I'm saying, they was Christians already, so they believed in Jesus already before the Council of Nicaea. You see what I'm saying? So these Scythians will settle in the promised land, and then they will be some weed smokers. You see what I'm saying? The whole New Testament, is about Jesus in the Decapolis city, healing Scythians and dealing with them. dealing with them only. That's what the whole New Testament is about. Besides those other Jews, them Edomites that was mad because he wasn't teaching them the way that they wanted them to. You see, they had to act like they wasn't with Jesus in order for the Scythians to embrace him. You see, because the Scythians, Ashkenazi, couldn't go to the temples. You see what I'm saying? You see, that's what it also, that synagogue of Satan. Those are the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not. Check this out. How about Jesus was finna get his head busted fooling with them Scythians? If you go to Luke 4, this is a cold story, and it keep me laughing. It keep me laughing because old Jesus was dealing with these Scythians in the Decapolis cities, right? And then he's supposed to be and cured some of them. And then he get to talking about some leprosy, because the people, them was some folks that had Tazarat on them. Those Scythians, they was white skinned. And then he get to talking about some lepers and how it was lepers, many lepers in the land that wasn't clean. Now he in a synagogue talking about some white folks. Now he said, well, it was many lepers in the land were Israel in the time of Eliseus the prophet, and none of them was clean, saving Naaman the Syrian. And all they in the synagogue, when they heard these things, were filled with wrath. You see what I'm saying? And rose up and thrust him out of the city and led him unto the broad the hill whereupon the city was built, that they might cast him down headlong. But he passing through the midst of them went his way, because they gonna be high on some weed and stuff. So, but he was making fun of them, you know what I'm saying, for they whiteness and them being unclean and stuff, because he called them some unclean lepers and stuff, and he made fun of them. And then Jesus spoke in synagogues throughout the whole New Testament, and that's all he did was hang around synagogues and was in synagogues and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But Jesus spent his whole time dealing with Scythians, and then the Scythians, you know what I'm saying, smoked their weed and stuff. And those are gonna be the people who constructed his story, and that was his members. Even his disciples lived in the Decapolis cities and stuff, and then they would possibly be weed smokers too. You see what I'm saying? Because that was the custom of the land. It wasn't against the law for them to smoke weed. So y'all whole Christian story and the belief in Jesus' miracles are in jeopardy now. You see what I'm saying? Because them folks smoked their weed. You see what I'm saying? And they was weed smokers. You know what I'm saying? The Scythians were weed smokers. And there's no way to change that. There's no way to change that. You see what I'm saying? And the Scythians smoked their weed. And they had bones and stuff. And who is to say that, they didn't smoke no herb and stuff when they was telling them stories to the people who constructed the story about Jesus. You see what I'm saying? So you got to take all that into account. Was they high on weed and stuff? Because the Scythians in the Decapolis is all who he dealt with. That's all who Jesus dealt with. You see what I'm saying? So you brothers and sisters got to reevaluate your belief in the New Testament, because the people in the New Testament customs was to smoke weed. And I just showed you how the Scythians settled in the Decapolis city. That's common history that anybody can look up. You see what I'm saying? And the Scythians ain't nothing but Ashkenazi. Ain't nothing but Ashkenazi. And our father Noah said that they were settled in Shem's house. You know what I'm saying? That Japhet descendants, that Japhet, which mean his kids and everything, was settled in Shem house. If you go to Genesis 9 verse 27, and Yah shall enlarge Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. You know what I'm saying? That's like that New Testament. This is something else to put it in question. You see what I'm saying? Uh, how about Paul? In the belief in the New Testament and on how he got his ministry. You know what I'm saying? I can show that the Creator came in the darkness. You see what I'm saying? In the Tanakh, the Creator always came in the darkness. But here with Paul and his belief that in the New Testament that the Creator came in the light. You see what I'm saying? And then I can show that Paul and them story ain't correct about how he supposedly got his ministry from Jesus by seeing this light and then questioning whether they didn't see it. You know what I'm saying? And if you go to Acts 9, man, let me show this. Acts 9. All right, so let's go to Acts 9. We're going to show this here. Acts 9. All right, Acts 9. Acts 9. All right, and then you get to verse 7. Acts 9, verse 7. All right, and then this Paul, supposed to be strolling. I'm going to read the whole thing. And Paul, yet breathing out, threatening and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went unto the high priest and desired of him letters to Damascus, to the synagogues. See, that's all they dealt with was synagogues. I'm going to show you how Jesus was dealing nothing with synagogues. So that's going to be dealing with Ashkenazi. And them folks might be up in there smoking weed. All right, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound unto Jerusalem. As he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shone round about him a light from heaven. Now, it's a light. See what I'm saying? This a light. The Hebrews ain't never had no light shine on them, coming from no creator. Let me see. And he fell to the earth and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom thou persecuted. Is it hard for thee to kick against the pricks? And he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. And the men, look, check this out. And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. You see what I'm saying? All right. Now, when you get to 22, all right, 22:9. Check this out. This is a cold thing right here. Got y'all messed up. Acts 22:9. All right. Here it is, the same thing as, I'm saying, the same story. He repeating it now. I think he under, some persecution. So he got to tell his story the way it's supposed to be. All right. This Paul, men breathing in fathers. This Acts 22. Men breathing as in fatherings, and ye hear ye my defense, which I make now to thee. And when they heard that he speak in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silence. And he said, I am verily a man which am of a Jew, born in Tyrus, in a city in Calico. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be the Greek-Roman citizenship. Yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, that's a Edomite, of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward God. And ye are all this day, and I persecute this way unto the death, binding and delivering into prison both men and women, and also in the high priest doeth bear me witness in all the estate of the elders, from whom I also received letters unto the brethren and to the Damascus, to bring them which were there bound unto Jerusalem for to be punished. And it come to pass that as I made my journey, and here you go telling this lie, and as it come to pass that as I made my journey and was coming night unto Damascus about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me, and I fell unto the ground and heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, 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 why persecutest thou me? And I answered, Who art thou, Lord? And he answered, I am Jesus of Nazareth, now his name the grown, whom thou persecuted. And they that were with me saw indeed the light and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake with me. But over here, he gonna say, and the men which journeyed with me stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. But over here it got, and they that were with me saw indeed the light and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake unto me. You see what I'm saying? See, them folks smoking weed. Ain't no telling what was going on. Ain't no telling what was going on dealing with them, because the Scythians and the people who associated with them smoke weed and stuff. So, anything could have been going on. But let me show you how the Creator come in the, come in the darkness. You know what I'm saying? You go to Genesis 1. Genesis 1, 2. Genesis 1, 2. I'm going to show you how the Creator come in the darkness. Now, Paul and say they came in the light, but that's unusual because the Creator always came in the darkness. And the earth was, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters. You see what I'm saying? All right, and then you go to Samuel 2. Yeah, I believe that's Samuel 2:10. Samuel 2:10. Second Samuel 2:10. Second Samuel 2:10. Second Samuel 22:10. I almost turned right to it. All right. See, he bowed the heavens also, and come down, and darkness was up under his feet. See what I'm saying? Darkness up under his feet. All right, I think you go to all right, let's see. Darkness was up under his feet. All right, let's go to First Kings. First Kings. That'll be First Kings. I'm gonna see in my mind. Let me think. That'll be First Kings. That'll be First Kings 8:12. Let's see. I got to remember stuff. I got a lot of Bible verses in my head. Let me see. 8:12. Yeah. Then spake Solomon the Lord, the Elohim said, Thou shalt dwell in the thick darkness. Then spake Solomon, the Elohim said that he would dwell in the thick darkness. So the Creator come in the darkness. You know what I'm saying? All right, and then if you go to Zephaniah 1:4, let's see. This the one. This the prophet tell you about Ashkenazi coming to get us. Zephaniah 1. Let's see. It's gonna be Zephaniah 1:14. 1:14. Let's see. The great day of the Elohim is near. It is near. A haste greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Elohim. The mighty shall cry bitterly. That day is a day of wrath, a day of terrible distress, a day of waste, a day of desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess. You see what I'm saying? So, the Creator come in the darkness. He ain't never came in the light. All right, let's see, 115. Yeah, he always come in the darkness. Man, the Creator always come in the darkness. Always come in the darkness. All right. Let's see. Let me go. First Chronicles 6:1. First Chronicles 6:1. Anyway, man, there's so many verses. Amos 5:18. You know what I'm saying? Woe unto me that desire the day of the Elohim. To what end is it for thee? The day of the Elohim is darkness and no light. You know what I'm saying? And a whole bunch of verses. You know, Joel, the day of darkness and gloominess, of cloudness, of thick darkness. You know, throughout the whole, you know what I'm saying, Tanakh, the Creator came in the darkness. You know what I'm saying? And Paul told a lie. You know what I'm saying? When he said that he seen the light. See what I'm saying? So them folks in the New Testament smoked their weed. And Ashkenazi smoked their weed. And that was part of their customs. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, here all of a sudden, you got all this miraculous stuff happening and all this stuff that ain't making no sense. You see what I'm saying? It's because in the Decapolis cities, and Scythian was the head place, the Scythians smoked cannabis. They smoked it weed. And Ashkenazi are the Scythians. You see what I'm saying? Ashkenazi are the Scythians. Ashkenazi was first associated with the Scythians. Those gonna be the people that settled in Scythopolis. Them gonna be the people that settled in the Decapolis city. You know what I'm saying? And they smoked it weed. So the whole New Testament is in jeopardy now and stuff because you don't know when they were smoking weed, and when they wasn't. You know what I'm saying? And we know that there wasn't no black folks because Tigris the Great and in between 95 and 55 BC took over 10,000 Jews to Armenia from Jerusalem. You see what I'm saying? That was a sample of the population and wasn't none of them black. There's no black culture there. There's no black culture that stemmed from the people that was once there. You see what I'm saying? So it's all messed up. So you Hebrews, you know, should be thankful for the Israelite brotherhood. And it's like, you know, you should subscribe on YouTube. You see what I'm saying? Because this is where you're going to get the history from, the correct history. You see, I don't do Jewish history. I do Hebrew Israelite history. And I show you the difference. You know, that's like I'm showing y'all that Ashkenazi was in the Decapolis city. And Ashkenazi were the people who Jesus' membership was made of in the Decapolis cities. Those were the weed smokers. Their whole culture was based upon smoking weed. So, you know, the whole New Testament, everything is in jeopardy now because the stories about Jesus come from third-party sources, all of them. You see what I'm saying? And when Jesus said this, when y'all say, he say the synagogue of Satan, those who say they are Jews and are not. Y'all see how he was about to get his head busted in that one synagogue trying to heal them folks with Jesus' whole ministry was in synagogues dealing with the Decapolis cities, the Scythians, and they was weed smokers and stuff. So, you know, that's the end of the New Testament. And then them folks come around, when they came around and stuff, they come around with body parts. That's how they chased us into Africa. You know what I'm saying? With them body parts on them horses and stuff. Made us get on down. Made us come up off the covenant land. You know what I'm saying? We had said that we wanted to do the Egyptian religion. So the Creator sent the worst of the people to get us up off the land. And that's what happened to us. And then if you look in Ezekiel, you know, it tell you that these folks have slaves and sell slaves too. And that was part of their culture. Weed smoking and locking folks up. You see what I'm saying? Locking you up and selling you. You see what I'm saying? So that's what happened to us. And we fell into their hands when we broke the covenant. And basically the Egyptians tricked us out of our covenant because the Egyptians had to do trade on the other side of the promised land. As long as we did the covenant, they couldn't come across the promised land. And it was like slowly killing Egyptian society and stuff because you can't survive without trade back then. So Egypt was cut off with us doing the covenant. So they put us on their religion. And Pharaoh and them know that we had a covenant with the Creator. Egypt and Mesopotamia had correspondence and stuff. And that's like that obelisk, the Cleopatra needle that we was enslaved with in the beginning of our enslavement in Egypt, 1450 BC. It's in New York. And it's a statue of King Necho, the evil, wicked Pharaoh king that killed King Josiah when we, said that, we tried to follow the law. And then the Egyptians would come out and kill King Josiah and put us back on the Egyptian religion, and we would go into Africa. We would be chased into Africa by these folks, the Scythians, Ashkenazi. You know what I'm saying? And then they were settled in the Decapolis cities, and then they would be trying to follow the law. And then them Edomites and them Sephardic Jews had to get them up off the covenant law and try to get them an incorrect history. And that's why they sent Jesus, the Essenes, and all them other organizations, John the Baptist, all them gonna be done came out of Egypt, and they were sent to mislead the Ashkenazi. But Ashkenazi took what they did and turned it into a religion and controlled the whole world now today and stuff. You see, the other ones had, the Sephardic groups had to go create a secondary religion to combat Christianity and stuff. And them two battles been going on since then and stuff. They created the religions by proxy, for proxy wars, so they don't fight each other and then be exposed and stuff. But Ashkenazi settled in the Decapolis cities, and Scythian was the head one, and Jesus will have them as members. Jesus was held them as members, and they smoke weed. They smoke weed as part of the Scythian culture. So therefore, all those miracles in the scenes of the New Testament are in jeopardy now. Because here's a culture of people that smoked their weed, and then you get the stories about Jesus from third-party sources. You see what I'm saying? So shalom, Hebrew. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Them other groups is teaching Jewish history, and then they teaching lies to keep the Hebrews ensnared. If you got a leader and your leader is teaching Christianity or that stuff in the New Testament, then he ain't no leader, because a leader's supposed to lead. He's supposed to lead the way. You see what I'm saying? You're going to lead the way to destruction, or you're going to lead the way to truth and hopefully some prosperity. And that's what the Israelite Brotherhood stand for. You see what I'm saying? We showing you that the people in the Decapolis cities who Jesus messed with smoked it weed. They smoked it weed. I ain't knocking weed, you know what I'm saying? But they smoke weed. You got to take that into account. And then they giving them stories about Jesus later on, and them folks smoke weed. Then there it is. And then they done enslaved us with it. That's why them folks be happy and you can get out of stuff and you say, yeah, I believe in Jesus. I believe. Then them folks go light on you because they know your mind is tore up and you don't know what's going on. See what I'm saying? All right, shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Jesus members smoked it weed in the Decapolis cities. In the Decapolis cities, that's where the Scythians settled at. In the Decapolis cities, the Scythians settled in the Decapolis cities, and ain't nothing gonna change that. Ain't nothing gonna change that. And you Hebrews gonna have to wake up. You Hebrews gonna have to wake up. The Decapolis cities, that's where they settled at. They settled in the Decapolis cities. That's where the Scythians settled at, and they smoked it weed. And Jesus had them as members. Ain't nothing gonna change that. And that's just the way it is. So your whole New Testament and what went on then, it is in jeopardy now because they smoked the weed. The Decapolis city were settled by Scythians. The Greeks came later and the Romans came later and helped them, but them cities was already settled by Scythians, and their capital was Scythopolis on the right side of the Jordan. See what I'm saying? On the west side of the Jordan. And the other 10 cities was on the east side, but they were settled by Scythians after the Babylonian wars, and they smoked it weed, and that's who Jesus dealt with the whole time. The whole time. Get that in your mind. The whole time. That's what the New Testament is about. Jesus fooling with them folks. Shalom, a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is Israel being Israel for the Israelite Brotherhood. You see what that say.